With me is Lloyd Singleton from Sumter County Extension. He is their Florida-friendly landscape agent. Welcome, Lloyd.
Thank you.
You have a big bowl of stuff today, and you're going to talk about composting.
I am.
So what is composting, and why should we do it?
Well, simply, it's decomposed organic material, but actually what happens, it's an aerobic self-heating process in which microbes transform raw organic matter into humus, which is a critical soil component. Why should we do it? There's two main reasons. We can build our soil health, and we can avoid putting things in the landfill that don't need to go there. I think it's really important from the building soil standpoint because you're going to increase your soil's ability to hold water. You're going to add some natural nutrient. You're going to add a lot of microbial activity, which is the living organisms that normally exist in soil. And you're just going to have a much healthier plant, which therefore is pest resistant. It's going to naturally fight off pests instead of having to try to spray and kill all the bad all the time. You're promoting the good.
So in a nutshell, composting will help us save money essentially for the county because we're not going to be filling up the landfill. It's going to save us money because we're not going to have to buy as much fertilizer, and it's going to make our plants healthier? Absolutely.
You know that the amount of nitrogen in a well-done compost could reduce the amount of nitrogen you need to put on a lawn by 1/3. So you could actually save some money. The other thing we're doing by avoiding putting this decomposable material into the landfill is you're reducing the methane gases that are put off by the landfill. And we all know that's bad and contributing to our global climate change. So it's something each of us could do to help that out and compost this instead of adding it to the landfill.
So how easy is it to compost, and how do I get started?
Well, it's very easy. You don't have to have a fancy bin or some big vessel. You can actually just have a pile in the corner of your backyard. Now, of course, you may want to put it somewhere that it's not going to be offensive to you or your neighbors because it's not always the prettiest thing. But basically, it's the same process that happens on the forest floor. It's where organic material just naturally decomposes. So if you want to just start taking your organic matter out of your waste stream and start putting it in a pile or a bin or some sort of structure in your backyard, turning it, adding, you have to have the right amount of brown and green. You want to add some leaves, maybe even some shredded paper. You want to have a good bit of carbon, the brown stuff, to go with the green, which is the nitrogen, the wetter material. And then the other key is you want to turn it frequently. A pitchfork works really well for that because you need to continue to let oxygen get to the material to help it decompose. That makes it happen more quickly.
So is there a certain percentage of brown to green, or how do I set that up?
There is a percentage, but it's a rule of thumb would be almost half and half brown to green.
That
but
sounds easy.
You have to also have your instincts with it. You want it to be crumbly, but you don't want it to be moist. I mean, you want it to be moist but not wet.
Okay.
So you kind of have to get in there. Here actually is a good example of some finished compost that is about the right texture.
Oh yeah, that
As
is
you
nice
see
and crumbly.
It's crumbly, and it's moist, but if you squeeze it, there's not going to be any water dripping out.
So what can I compost, and or more importantly, what can I compost is
Okay.
probably even more important than what I can compost.
The one thing you really want to, or two things you want to avoid putting in your compost pile at home would be your pet feces, just because there may be some diseases that are contained in that and you don't want to be contributing to the spread of that. And then the other one would be meat products. Meat products, bones and fat and such may attract some of the pests like varmints that would end up getting into your pile, and they can also smell bad. Whereas if you're doing the other organic materials, basically if it came from a plant, you can put it in there. One exception that's a really good addition are eggshells. These add a lot of calcium to your compost, and all I suggest is that you crush them up good before you put them in there.
Good idea, because also if you have a septic tank, you're not supposed to run eggshells down your disposal, so it's great just to compost them.
You're avoiding that. And it's fun too. If you have any frustrations, you get to take them out by crushing them up.
Put little faces on them and crush them?
Exactly,
Ooh.
yeah. I have here some skin of onions. Had some okra from the garden that was a little too mature to cook, so I recommend you want to cut it into pieces. You
If
want
I
to
was
get it
lazy,
smaller.
I wouldn't have to, but it just composts much
It's going
better.
to make it happen faster, right. Then a favorite thing, what I like about coffee grounds is they serve as an emulsifier. They help to actually make the texture of the finished compost much better. They don't add a whole lot of nutrition, but they do definitely make it that nice crumbly feel.
Oh, okay.
And so both the coffee grounds and the filter can go in there. This is from my espresso machine. If
Does
you have the-
espresso make better compost than regular coffee?
Absolutely.
No.
The better coffee grounds, no, it's all the same. And then carrot tops or carrot peels, any kind of vegetable peel, potato peels, are going to compost very quickly and easily. Now the other component, the brown part that you need to add would be your leaves. Maybe you rake from a tree. It might be some sticks and twigs, and if you have those, you want to break them up. So again, it will compost more quickly. You can also put bread.
I had always heard
in
that
a
you can't
compost.
I had always heard that you can't.
You
Oh.
can. You just want to make sure that it's broken up well. And for instance, if you have that loaf of bread that's just sat there a little too long,
That would never happen at our house.
instead of throwing it away, you can add that to your compost pile. As long as you break it up. Even moldy bread, it works fine. Now the heating process, this decomposition process will naturally heat the pile, and it's going to kill all of the bad stuff. It's going to kill your weed seed and any disease pathogens. Or in the case of moldy bread, it's going to kill that mold on the bread. And you're going to find that the outcome is really perfect and ready to go in the garden. I think that's all I got to cut up
We
in
got
there.
all your things? So how long should it take me when I mix all this stuff in and put it in my compost pile and properly turn it and all the other good stuff, how long till I have compost?
If you're really managing it well, it can happen in as little as 30 to 45 days. More realistically, you're not going to get out there and turn it as often as you should. It might be 60 days or 3 months. But the bottom line is nature will work its process and it will eventually decompose. If you've ever just seen a pile of organic material sitting out by the road, eventually it goes away. It all decomposes and then becomes that rich soil amendment.
So if I rake off maybe some of my old mulch and things like that, I
Absolutely.
can put that in and compost it
Add
just
that
as
right
well?
back to it. Turn that in. That would serve as some of the good brown element to keep that that mixture going.
So when it's crumbly, basically, I know when it's done, that it's done.
Yes, and you're going to find that the bottom of the pile is more quickly done than the top.
Makes sense.
And sometimes you may want to have a series of piles, maybe 2 or 3, so that you can have one finishing while the others are started. And that way you can turn it and be ready to use the one finished pile.
So, and then, if your neighborhood maybe complains about having this kind of stuff, maybe plant some shrubbery around it to kind of screen it.
Absolutely. Screen the view is all. And there's not going to be any odor to it if it's been well managed. If it does start to smell, it's either too wet or it needs to be turned. It's lacking oxygen. So if you turn it, that's when you let the oxygen get in there and let that decomposition take place.
Well, great. Well, I guess we all need to make sure that we get out and do more composting so that we reduce our waste and have a better garden. Thank you so much, Lloyd.
Thank you.